I want to ask you a question about Texas redistricting. As you know, President Trump has recently encouraged, I'll use that, Texas Republicans to do mid-cycle redistricting in order to gain more seats in the House of Representatives. I understand that after the president made that decision or that announcement, you personally sent a letter on July 7 to Texas in your capacity as Assistant Attorney General, arguing that 4 Democratic districts violate federal law. Is that the case? Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate you calling this hearing. The questions before us are absolutely profound. They're being tested and litigated, and they're being contested politically. The question before this Congress is whether we're going to save the Civil Rights Division or we're going to destroy it. And I want to step back just a moment. The Civil Rights Division is a crown jewel in the Department of Justice of the United States of America. It was founded in 1957. It was founded by a Republican president, Dwight D. Eisenhower. It was when we were beginning to come out of the dark days of legalized discrimination, the Jim Crow laws in the South, lynchings, denial of voting rights, discrimination in housing. The Congress began slowly to address this with laws. The Civil Rights Division in the Department of Justice, in a very turbulent time, had the responsibility to enforce the laws of the Congress that were passed by Congress, not the prerogatives of the president. And it did extraordinary work then, as it is doing now. They investigated assassinations of Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers. They brought landmark cases to desegregate school districts in the South against bitter opposition to allow the decision that separate and equal would not stand. It also took the lead in making voting a reality for folks who couldn't vote. You know, Mr. Chairman, I began my career in, I guess it's in politics, because of the civil rights era. I went to Chicago and was a community organizer, and I was shocked as a young man to see that black folks in the west side of Chicago and Lawndale who had 2 jobs, who were struggling to pay their bills, who were looking to make their schools better, they couldn't buy a house and get a mortgage. It was legal for the banks to deny them a mortgage. It was legal for the Veteran Affairs Department to deny folks who served as soldiers in World War II to get a VA guarantee. It was legal under the Illinois law to evict folks who were paying on contract to buy a home. But if they missed a payment after 10 years because somebody got sick or you got laid off from your job, legally they could have their entire house taken back and have no equity. And it was Civil Rights Division folks who were in there fighting for the rights of those Americans. That battle continues. And that's what we're going to be testifying about today. But the most important thing that we have to remember is that there was a congressional responsibility to establish laws about what rights individuals had, regardless of their race, their gender, their sexual orientation. And those were the laws that were enforced by the Department of Justice through the Civil Rights Division. And I am so indebted to those lawyers who made a decision, oftentimes to say no to a career on Wall Street or K Street or Market Street in San Francisco, and to be here in the Justice Department to advocate and represent the rights of citizens as those were defined by the Congress of the United States. It's a new day. And our witness here is going to testify. I look forward to hearing what her testimony is. But there's a profound difference in the Justice Department today than there was the day before the election. And that is the new policy directives that are being issued to DOJ attorneys is the zealous and faithful pursuit of, quote, the priorities of the president. No, it's the priorities of the Constitution. It's the priorities of the legislation passed by Congress. It is not the priorities of any person, even if that person is the President of the United States. That is not what the job of the Justice Department is to do. So today, Mr. Chairman, I so appreciate your statement. You're engaging this issue, but I'm going to have to say we're going to have some disagreement along the way.
Right.
Thank you.
Senator Welch.
Thank you very much. Ms. Dhillon, who won the 2020 election for president?
Senator, I previously testified on this matter. President Biden was declared the winner of that election, and I honor that and respect that.
So, but you can't say he won.
I mean, he was the president for 4 years. He clearly was the president.
Most of us know that. I'm asking if he won.
I've answered your question, Senator.
But you haven't. I want to ask you a question about Texas redistricting. As you know, President Trump has recently encouraged, I'll use that, Texas Republicans to do mid-cycle redistricting in order to gain more seats in the House of Representatives. I understand that after the president made that decision or that announcement, you personally sent a letter on July 7 to Texas in your capacity as Assistant Attorney General, arguing that 4 Democratic districts violate federal law. Is that the case?
It is the case that I sent a letter under my authority to administer the Voting Rights Act and indicate that in light of our analysis of 4 so-called coalition districts in Texas, that those districts were inconsistent with the Voting Rights Act.
And the date of July 7 was just coincidental, that it occurred after the president had called on the Texas legislature to do mid-decade redistricting?
I don't remember what date, Senator. I probably sent 300 letters since I've been in this office. And so what I can say is that I send no letter or make no request without proper investigation.
Have you sent any other state legislature a letter where you have indicated that districts within their state are in violation of federal law?
Not yet.
More redistricting to come?
I don't know. I have to investigate the facts.
Before you sent the letter on July 7, did you have any conversation with any representatives of the White House?
Senator, as you're aware, there are privileges that are involved in all executive branch communications, and without, I'm not able to testify without breaching the Department of Justice's guidelines in that regard, so I'm unable to answer any questions about conversations I may have had with other executive branch officials.
I'm not asking you what the content of the conversation was. I'm asking whether there was any conversation with anyone from the White House before you sent that July 7 letter.
Well, Senator, I have the same answer. I think you're aware of the broad scope of privileges that apply to lawyers' conduct.
Well, here's what I'm aware of. The president made a directive, which is highly unusual, telling a legislature, the Texas legislature, mid-decade to do redistricting, when we do that every 10 years. And it just so happened that the Assistant Attorney General sent a letter to that legislature after the president made his announcement and said that your investigations suggest 4 districts are in violation of federal law.
Is there a question, Senator?
There's a point here that it's hard to believe that that wasn't coordinated.
Well, let me draw your attention to a different fact that refutes your argument, namely the governor of the state that I called home for 25 years also called for redistricting in the state of California, and I haven't sent a letter to California. So correlation is not causation, Senator.
Which 4 districts did you say are in violation?
I did not come here to testify about that, but if you wish to have a follow-up with me about it, I'm happy to pull up my research. I'm not.
Would I be surprised that those were Democratic districts?
I don't know how to answer that, Senator. I'm not here to testify about that. I'm sure it's convenient to try to distract from the purpose of this hearing, which is to talk about DEI, but That is not what I'm prepared to testify about here today, Senator.
You have put a freeze on activities that the Justice Department in your division had done before, and you have walked out of settlements. I'm going to talk about Lowndes County in Alabama.
Senator, I think you're misinformed. There was a temporary freeze prior to my taking office. There's no freeze on activities. I filed numerous lawsuits, opened dozens and dozens of investigations, entered into numerous settlements, opened hate crime investigations involving numerous religious backgrounds. So I don't know what you're talking about, Senator.
Well, I don't have that much time, so we'll have to take this up in the second round of questioning. So